House Joint Resolution 93 is a proposed amendment to the Florida Constitution that will grant an exemption on the payment of taxes on the homestead of a surviving spouse of a military veteran or a Florida first responder killed in the line of duty. And that, Mr. Speaker, is the bill. Well, what we did here today was one of the things that we all get elected to do and come up here and actually pass laws that impact the lives of real people every day. This bill today that we passed unanimously by the Florida House of Representatives, 116-0, will grant an exemption on the payment of homestead taxes for the surviving spouses of military veterans or first responders who are killed in the line of duty. And this is a bill that I've been working on for about a year. We have Senate co-sponsor Jim Norman, and hopefully when the Senate passes this bill, it'll be passed overwhelmingly by the people of Florida in November, and we will be able to grant this exemption to the surviving widows or widowers of first responders and military veterans killed in the line of duty. I'd like to welcome everyone here who is supporting this great effort. This bill just passed the Florida House of Representatives unanimously by a vote of 116-0. The companion bill is moving through the Senate thanks to my good friend and Senate sponsor Jim Norman. I had the pleasure of serving as a Tampa City Councilman for 8 years. During that time, I gained an enormous amount of respect for the men and women who served on the Tampa Police Department and Tampa Fire Rescue. These are men and women who strap on a gun every morning, put on a badge, or ride on the back of a fire truck to keep us safe. They have jobs infinitely more dangerous than the ones that we have. Every morning when they leave home, there is a chance that they won't come home that afternoon. We have also now, with the passage of this bill, strengthened the protection that we offered to our military veterans' families back in 1997. My wife Susan lost her father when she was 8 months old when his Navy plane was shot down over the Sea of Japan. She grew up never knowing her father, but knowing that he was a hero. Today, the Florida House has taken action to recognize our heroes, both overseas and here on the home front. House Bill 95 grants an exemption on the payment of taxes on the homestead of a military veteran or first responder in Florida who is killed in the line of duty, if he or she leaves behind a surviving spouse and family. House Joint Resolution 93 places this bill on the ballot this November so that the people of Florida will have the opportunity to vote on this exemption if they so choose. And I have a feeling that this will pass overwhelmingly this November. So, there's still work to be done. This bill has not passed the full Senate yet, and once it does, and I'm confident it will with the help of Senator Norman, then we have to go around the state and make sure that the people are educated when we are ready to place this on the ballot in November. I'd like to recognize some of my co-sponsors on the bill who have joined us here today. We have Representative Michelle Ray Winkle Vasalinda. We have Representative Fred Costello. And we have Representative Greg Stubbe. And if I missed anyone, I'm sorry, but thank you all. Oh, and Representative Daphne Campbell. Thank you all very much for your co-sponsorship. We had about 20 or 30 co-sponsors on this bill, and we're going to leave it open for the next couple of weeks to see if we can get more than that. We're now going to hear from some very important people who have joined us here today. I'd like to recognize Cindy Roberts, who is the surviving spouse of Corporal Michael Roberts, who served 11 years with the Tampa Police Department until the end of his watch on Wednesday, August 19th, 2009. Cindy?
This bill is very important. It's very important to all of the men and women that serve in our military and the first responders that we have in our area, so that regardless of where they're doing their duty, whether it's overseas or here locally, the families that they may have to leave behind know that the people of Florida care about them. And this bill is very important, and I want to thank everyone that voted for it today and those that will hopefully be voting for it in November. Thank you.
Next up, we're going to hear from Lorraine Yaslowitz. Lorraine is the surviving wife of Officer Jeffrey Yaslowitz, who served 12 years with the St. Petersburg Police Department until the end of his watch on Monday, January 24th, 2011.
Like Cindy said, what they've left behind is a family, and there are stresses that we now have to endure, and this bill would definitely relieve the stress and again thank you for honoring our husbands and those that serve us and keep us safe every day. And we hope that everybody votes this in for November, because it would be one big stress that it would be relief for our families. Thank you so much.
I think it bears remembering that these ladies that are here with us today are here at their own expense. They made their own travel arrangements. They're not being reimbursed or helped out in any way to be here. And they're here because they know that this bill will help those who come after them. And there will be more, unfortunately. We will continue to lose brave men and women who die in the line of duty. So, ladies, I'd like to thank you very much personally for being here today. And, Cindy, I know it's your second trip up. We're next going to hear from Gary Bradford, my very good friend of many years, of the Florida Police Benevolent Association. Gary?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I've had the privilege of being a Tampa police officer for 25 years, retired successfully. During that time, I have worked with Sean Harrison and Jim Norman on many issues. And I'm here to tell you, they're the real deal. They were the real deal in Hillsborough County in the city of Tampa, and they brought their service to Tallahassee. And they're standing up for first responders and our military in tough budget times, because we know there's tough choices. Florida led the nation last year in law enforcement deaths. It's not a distinction that any of us relish in law enforcement or public safety, but it's a fact. And this is just a small thank you that we can do as a society to say thank you for the ones who have paid the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. And next we're going to hear from Volusia County Sheriff Ben Johnson, who is president of the Florida Sheriff's Association. Ben?
Thank you very much. 2011 was a very tragic year for first responders. And we think of all the victims that we lost, but you stop and forget the victims that are left behind in line with the families. And this very important legislation that does something to help them. And it's very important. I can't thank the Florida legislators and the state Senate enough for what they have done. Each and every one of us in public service knows victims, and it's very important to us. And once again, thank you very much for what you have done to help the families that are left behind. Thank you.
I want to recognize Jim Brody, who is the Director of Legislative and Cabinet Affairs of the Florida Department of Veterans Affairs. Jim, where are you at? I understand Jim is shy and doesn't have anything to say, but thank you for being here and showing your support. And I also want to hear from Tallahassee Fire Chief John Gatlin of the Florida Fire Chiefs Association.
Thank you all for being here. On behalf of the Florida Fire Chiefs Association and all the firefighters from around the state, we want to thank representatives for their support in this. This is a wonderful bill that's going to not only support and bring comfort to the first responders that are going out every day and putting their life on the line, but also to their families that don't know for sure if they're coming back when they leave to go to work that day. Again, thank you for your support.
And finally, last but certainly not least, our side of the rotunda here, our work is done today. We passed the bill by a unanimous vote, and I'm hoping that we'll have the same effect on that side of the rotunda over there in the coming weeks. But Senator Jim Norman is our Senate co-sponsor. Jim and I have sort of come up together in local government back in the early 90s in Hillsborough County, and I count him not only as an excellent representative and senator of the people back home, but also a very good personal friend. So, Senator Norman, if you could come up and say a few words.
First of all, I just want to thank everybody for being here, but we're here to recognize the real important people here, which is the heroes that we're trying to protect their families. In local government, Sean and I were able to team up with a lot of important things. But when we first got elected to come to Tallahassee, we had a dialogue. What's the most important legislation that we could file as our first bill, and that would be the most everlasting legislation that we could pass. And it was to protect these families of fallen soldiers, police officers, and firemen. I was very lucky to be able to, as a county commissioner, to be able to file some legislation locally that would, we have MacDill Air Force Base in Hillsborough County, that would pay the property taxes for combat soldiers as they went in when the war just started in Iraq. The county commission adopted 2,000 families as they were defending our freedom. As chairman, we held memorials for those fallen soldiers that came back, and I looked at the eyes and the families and saw mothers and children that had that soldier die in combat. And the county commission adopted legislation that would pay the property taxes for those folks. I've had dialogue with those families, and it's one of the most meaningful things that government has recognized that we cannot let those families lose their homes after they gave all for us. And for us to be able to do this for our police officers and our firemen and these families, Sean, I can't thank you enough. His leadership is just absolutely fantastic in the House of Representatives. This is the kind of legislation I think all people in the state of Florida expect from their leaders, and my heart thanks go out to you, and thank you, Sean.
All right, well, thank you all for being here today. The work of the legislature is often tedious and boring. It's filled with passionate dialogue and discourse, and sometimes a lot of very heated rhetoric. But sometimes we get to do good things for good people for good reasons. Today was one of those days. Today in the Florida House of Representatives, there were no Democrats and there were no Republicans. There were only Florida citizens who wanted to say thank you. So, to Ms. Yaslowitz and Ms. Roberts, thank you all very much for the sacrifices that you all have already made. And to the people of Florida, we hope that we will pass this constitutional amendment overwhelmingly in November, and all of Florida will be able to share in with us in giving their thanks. So thank you all very much for being here. We've got nothing but positive reaction from everybody that's learned about the bill. The governor believes in the bill. The Senate, I'm sure, is going to pass the bill. And like I said, we had a 116-0 vote today on the bill. So great unanimous support. As I said in the press conference today, no Democrats, no Republicans here today, only grateful Floridians who are willing to say thank you for the people who have paid the ultimate sacrifice to protect us.